Hello everyone, this is GT Time and I'm your moderator, Kyle Bossman, and joining us as always is our uniquely talented and knowledgeable panel, including Brandon Jones.
I have deja vu.
Daniel Bloodworth.
Hello.
In the super seat this week, Elise Willems.
A booyah.
And making this all happen, Don Casanova.
Hello world.
Oh my goodness, we're doing this live. If you are just listening to this as a recording, you should know that we have streamed this episode live, which would explain the audio quality of the music and also like our certain E3 energy. It definitely feels weird that we're doing it live, you know, that's exciting to me.
Two things happen in your body during E3. There's like a fatigue with the lack of sleep and just kind of like, you know, the general mental fatigue of like trying to say something, you know, for 12 hours every day for 5 days straight. But you're so damn excited at the same time.
Yeah.
But the thing is that excitement that really fuels you, you don't really know how, you know, it's not, there's no HUD, you know, there's no, you can see that reserve that starts getting the red and you're like, uh-oh, I better go have a sandwich.
And that excitement also interacts dangerously with the fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like filling. They're like you don't have that limit. You've opened a gate that you're not prepared to jump through, and that is E3.
But we got to jump through the gate.
Gotta jump to the
We're
gate.
on the other side of the gate.
Elise, you were in the super seat this week officially, and so we have the question, the official super seat question this round is: what is your favorite E3 memory?
And not a dumb answer like last year's Man Ups. 'Cause that'd be dumb.
How dare you?
Wow.
How dare you?
Probably it would have to be this E3. This is really fun.
Is that a cop out or is that real?
Cheers.
Do you really feel
That's
that way?
a cop out.
Oh, okay.
Cheers.
No, last year meeting Jonathan Blow, not giving him a free taco, but instead getting a really beautiful demo of his game, The Witness. Favorite moment.
Was that demo of The Witness better than the demo from this year?
Oh, whoa.
Whoa,
That was
Brandon
uncalled for.
throw it at the
Wow.
birds.
Didn't he like lose all his money and you're making fun of him for this?
I'm not making fun of him for that. I'm just
I don't
bringing up
know
that
the
it wasn't
story.
yours.
man.
Throw it at a bird. I'm all goofy now. I'm super silly because I'm so tired.
We're so tired. E3's so good.
No, but like us getting to like talk about Waluigi Sneak and Peek, the game that you made up as much
Sneak
as
and
we
Love.
have. So, Sneak and Love, Sneak and Love.
Sneak and Peek's a sequel.
Sneak and Peek is a little gross. We collaborated. I wish you wouldn't always say I made it up. We collaborated on this.
Yeah, but the core concept was yours. A stealth romance starring Waluigi.
So I'll take created by, you can have like an EP credit.
Thanks, Kyle.
All right.
Can I do the voice of Waluigi? in the game?
Let's audition you.
We should all audition maybe for Waluigi and Sneak and Love.
Okay, cool.
Or Waluigi.
Okay. And now
good.
Bloodworth, please slate for Waluigi.
Waluigi.
That's better.
Wow, that was very good. Brandon Jones.
Waluigi.
Okay, this is Kyle Bossman as Waluigi. Waluigi. And Don.
And Judge Don Casanova.
No. Oh yeah, he's the judge.
I'm Waluigi.
I think Don's a clear winner. I think we can move on from that one.
Of course. I mean, chat probably named him the winner. So Don, you'll officially be the voice of Waluigi in our game. We should move on quickly to corrections music. Let me pull that up,
I have
too.
a page full of Nintendo announcements right here.
Uh-huh.
Is it bad that I want that Don voiced Waluigi? I want that game.
Sneak and Love.
Oh,
want that
dude,
game.
absolutely.
You can keep your Star Fox. I want that game.
I brought it up for Way to Nintendo just to like, hey, this is how easy it could be to make a new cool game. Don't do a Mario.
It'd be so rad if you like actually printed out the box art that we got for that and like put it in a Nintendo case and then just like dropped it on the show floor like in the Nintendo booth and then somebody like, what? Especially like behind closed doors. If you got like to where the puppets were and you just kind of like put it on the table there.
Oh my gosh! And then somebody tweets that photo. Oh yeah.
We need to incept Reggie. So
I
he
think
thinks
it's
this
started.
was his idea.
It's definitely already started. I like that he thinks it's his idea.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he comes into work on Monday and is just like, hey everybody, how about we do this?
Yeah, he has to think it's his idea. That's the only way it'll happen.
He needs a game.
Sometimes I think about interviewing Reggie. My first question for Reggie is, what was the first time at Nintendo where you felt like you had a good idea? Like,
It's a super seed question.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. It is basically a super seat question.
Yeah.
Let's move on to corrections. Begin corrections music, Kyle. This seems like a different edition of it. I like this. Here's our corrections from last week. It was confirmed recently that online players can't attack your mother base in Metal Gear Solid 5, but they can affect your forward operations base, 2 different bases, to customize in Phantom Pain, so you won't need to play the game offline. Cool. And maybe the microtransactions have more to do with that base than the one in the single-player game. Who knows? We don't know still. George Washington was not the captain of the USS Constitution. He merely named it the USS Constitution. The cord used for the PS4, Xbox One, and most Android smartphones is micro USB, not mini.
Yeah, it's easy to get mixed up.
And also, we got a lot of corrections about what Bloodworth said about saves on the Xbox One. Let's just say Bloodworth was wrong about this one.
It was an update, I'm sure. And I'm sure I probably read that update and was like, oh, cool, they updated that, and then forgot about it, as most updates go.
And correction music. Ooh, it faded. Yeah, and correction was a little fade. That was not bad. Okay, cool. Those are our corrections from last week, and we should move on to... Oh, what's wrong, Elise?
Sorry, this is back to Sneak in Love for a minute here. I was telling James about it today, and he suggested the most brilliant thing, that you can see, like, shadows. The couples, you know, that you're trying to set up, you can see shadows of them.
Yeah.
And then you raise up the Wii U gamepad, and then you can see their secrets. Like, so it's
Their
almost,
secret desires.
Yeah, it's almost like you can see behind a curtain.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, but I think we have to work for their secrets a little more than that. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, no, I know exactly what you mean.
So
Maybe
E3
you see icons for secrets, but you don't know what those mean. You see like a pizza. It's like,
Oh,
what does
that might
mean?
be.
Yeah.
Well, that means
Do you
I
want to
love
make pizza or do you want to eat pizza? What is it?
Do you want to be a pizza? Anyway, sorry, we'll get back to this. We'll talk about this more later.
We'll definitely cover this more later on in the show, but for now we should talk about E3. This is the week of E3. This is more news than we ever get all year long.
This was a crazy E3.
This is a crazy E3, and I think, honestly, I was looking at it, news outside of press conferences, and it's not much. Basically, the easiest way to tackle this episode would be to just go through what happened in each E3 press conference. And the way I want to target this episode is towards someone who hasn't seen any news all week long. Do you know what I mean? And so I don't want to just be like, oh, it was crazy when that thing happened. Yeah, when that happened, okay, let's move on. I want to describe what happened. I want to go through the things that occurred this week.
Did we block out 3 hours for GT time?
No. We're still going to do it in an hour. We're going to do 8
That's
press
a no from
conferences
Doug.
in 1 hour. We're going to do this. I got it.
Those 8 press conferences took like 12, 13 hours.
Yeah, dude, especially with PC at 3 hours. So let's get right into it. First, we had Bethesda on Sunday night. First ever Bethesda press conference.
Pretty good.
Yeah, very good.
Very
What made it
good.
pretty good, Blood?
I think because, even though Bethesda doesn't have a ton of games to show off, they, can't do a giant montage that, rattles off 15 games or anything like that. They played to the strength of, you can actually show a lot of this, and I think that was one of the great things with Fallout 4. We had all these questions, and a lot of them were answered. You saw a lot of Fallout 4, everything from creating your character into how, the combat works and this crazy crafting system they have going on to the mobile stuff, and, and they covered a lot of that game, which, considering it's, tracking to come out this year, it makes sense to just blow it out.
Todd Howard came out at the end of this presentation, the Bethesda press conference, and spent a half hour talking about just Fallout 4. We want a little bit of Fallout Shelter, but just a half hour talking about Fallout. That's crazy. You can't do that in any other press conference, and that made this press conference unique, and I thought that was very cool.
I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from Bethesda, and I hope we've kind of seen a new era of the way you can possibly make effective press conferences, which is people looking at, do we want to have, because Sony was kind of like the opposite of the Bethesda press conference, but they were both really great. But Sony was just like curveball, secret, surprise, realization, dream come true, crazy announcement, crazy version of this franchise coming back that you didn't know.
Right.
Whereas Bethesda was just like, these two things, you want them both, you're getting them both. We're going to do tons of material just on these two things. We got Elder Scrolls and
What's the other thing?
and
What are these
Dishonored.
two things?
Doom and Fallout.
Yeah, so what's Doom?
Doom is a first-person shooter, is one of the first-person shooters, and we knew it was coming. People had seen gameplay, but that gameplay hadn't been leaked, and then they just came out and threw us right into the game and showed us a bunch of it, and it fits with what we expect of Doom and what I think people wanted. And like you said, I don't know if it was 30 minutes, but we definitely had more than one piece of media. It's something that Assassin's Creed has done in a lot of years, where they're like, okay, here's a CG cool open. Okay, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Now watch this awesome gameplay thing. And Assassin's Creed didn't do that. We got a taste of it here and there, kind of fizzled at the Ubisoft press conference. And it's just an interesting, I like studying press conferences, and now I have this new tactic of a press conference where it's like, maybe we just take all of the things off of our plate that aren't amazing, that aren't something that we can talk about for a long time, that we can't just go up there and do smoke and mirrors. We can actually give just, a ton of detail about Fallout. And it wasn't just, random off-topic stuff. It was like customization, building weapons, how your dog works, this cool new Fallout Shelter app that we made that you can download right now. It's just like every new thing. That awesome Pip-Boy. It's like everything that they announced.
What is that awesome Pip-Boy?
If you pre-order it, you get this plastic Pip-Boy you can put your phone in that basically operates as the Pip-Boy and connects to the game.
No, that's a collector's edition. That's just not a pre-order bonus.
But there's also the app that you can.
The app's free.
You don't need that. Yeah, you can download the app and you can use it in game.
The way this app works is basically the way your Pip-Boy works in the game. Like it's your menu. You can level up within this app or within the app attached to a wrist attachment like an actual Pip-Boy. And so you can look down at your wrist and say, pause.
I can see the inevitable jokes now where people get duct tape and they like duct tape their iPhone onto their wrist and they're like, I got my Pip-Boy.
You're right. That's on the front page of Reddit. I know it is. It's coming.
Do it now.
Elise, did you love anything from this press conference?
But Dishonored 2, I think, was the biggest surprise next to the Pip-Boy and like Fallout Shelter. And so I'm definitely like intrigued and looking forward to playing as like Emily and Corvo. I thought this press conference was quality and quantity. Like we saw fewer games, but we saw a lot of them, and they looked really, really good. And this Bethesda's press conference was kind of the only one where we sort of got a game that we could play now, aside from Nintendo releasing Earthbound Beginnings. Like Fallout Shelter, say what you will, it's a mobile game, it's a tie-in, but Fallout Shelter looks pretty cool. I don't have an iOS device to play it on, but a lot of people are going nuts over it.
So what is Fallout Shelter?
I guess it's just you design your own. I haven't gotten to play it, but you design your own Fallout Shelter,
base simulation. Yeah.
Do you remember how Todd Howard described it?
No. Oh yeah, maybe I wrote it down.
I'm sure it was some expletive. He just said he didn't want to make a boring, dumb iPhone game that just wants your money.
And he said a lot of things that if you play a lot of games on mobile, you appreciate. Where he's like, it's free to play. We have some purchase stuff in there, but it's not stupid stuff. It's stuff that's just going to make stuff move a little bit faster, but it's not. I can't remember. There was some category of something that's like typically screws you in mobile games. He's like, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And honesty is a big thing that I like to seek out at press conferences and at E3 in general. And like everything that Todd Howard was saying really felt like it was genuine.
He killed it.
That went a long way.
He dropped the mic. I'm telling you, he's gaming's Michael Bay. That's what he reminds me of.
Whoa.
He just doesn't care, and he's like, this is what's up. And it's cool.
I don't know if you know this. Michael Bay is very bad at public speaking. Remember when Bay walked out? Was that CES or something? Wasn't there something he was just going to show off like a curved TV?
Oh yeah.
And like the teleprompter didn't work, and he was just like, I'm out of here.
But I feel like Todd Howard, if he was in a situation like that, he'd be like, don't waste Todd Howard's time.
No, Todd Howard would rip off the microphone and just project to an audience. Yeah. Todd Howard's a whole different guy, I feel like.
I mean, maybe they just look similar to me in the face. Maybe that's where I get it from. But I just think that they both kind of are like, they're matter of fact, and they're like, this is what it is, and this is why it's cool. Mm-hmm. And back to like Fallout Shelter for a second. I felt kind of bad because I'm pretty sure that there's an indie game named called Shelter or Sheltered.
Yeah, Shelter,
yeah, that just got announced, which is essentially the same
Shelter 2
idea. Yeah, building your own Fallout Shelter that you design and base.
There's a couple of bedlams out there too. I saw one of them today. I forget what the beginning part of it was, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, can you imagine though, like you're like announcing your game at E3, your like little like indie game you're working on, and then it's just in the shadow of Fallout Shelter?
I'd be crying.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Microsoft. The next day, Monday morning, Microsoft had a press conference for the Xbox. This was it was 9:30 a.m. Basically, traditionally kicks off E3, but still feels like, well, traditionally it does. I think we all assumed Bethesda wouldn't be huge, and then Bethesda was huge.
Yeah.
And so, like, coming in, we have high expectations for Microsoft. Did they meet them? Daniel Bloodworth, are you texting something right now?
No, everyone's looking at notes. I'm going to pull out my notes.
Oh, cool.
I think they hit a pretty typical good press conference.
What does that mean to have a typical good press conference?
Well, Sony always goes later, and the last couple of years, Microsoft has come out and make a good earnest effort, and then Sony comes along and just one-ups them in regards to not just checking off all the boxes, which means we're going to bring Halo 5, which you guys are expecting. We're going to announce Sea of Thieves, which you're not, and we're going to wrap things up, with a gameplay demo of something that you're hoping is going to be there for Gears. And you just, you get to enjoy a nice press conference, and it's got everything that you want, that you hope for E3. And then you kind of don't realize, what you're missing. I mean, if you're smart, I didn't. And then I went into Sony, and all these bombs started dropping, and you're like, there it is. That's E3. That's the good stuff.
That's that feeling. What is Sea of Thieves?
That's what the show's about. Sea of Thieves is a open world-ish pirate game where you go and plunder it.
MMO-ish.
Yeah, it just kind of looks like Secret of Monkey Island if there wasn't a puzzle-based adventure game there, and it was just mostly about running around on islands and hopping in ships.
Developed by Rare.
Yeah.
Rare has some
IP.
freedom finally.
So
This
is
cool.
why I usually use a book. This thing is still loading. I don't know what it's doing.
I miss your little other book. You haven't been using it for E3? What's
No,
your book?
I've been using it for E3, but I just for the press conference stuff, I just kept a log of all that while I was going on.
Oh, okay, because you were typing. Yeah.
So that we knew what we still needed to post, etc. But anyways,
what do you recall? What's from your memory when it comes to mind?
well, no, what was great is they brought the things that we expected, but then having stuff there like Sea of Thieves, which brand new IP nobody could have predicted. And then Recore from freaking Inafune and Mark Pacini. It was like, okay. I mean, we still don't really know anything about that game, and hopefully it doesn't end up like last year's announced games.
Like Phantom Dust?
Yeah. But, I would be very interested to see what those guys come up with, and it's got a cool vibe to it. So it was actually, in some ways, it has a slightly similar vibe to Horizon, just because of, they're sort of scavenging in robots, etc. But
Horizon Lady's got jokes.
yeah,
I don't imagine Recore Lady does jokes.
she might. I don't know if they've expounded more on that game, but it's really interesting that you start out with a little dog and then you use the core and make it into something bigger, and how much bigger does it get?
So it is weird to see. It was a CG trailer for this game that did communicate a lot of gameplay actually in it. She stole a red core from a robot. Cores, by the way, are like bowling ball sized orbs that are glowing. A red one is the bad guys, and then her little dog has a blue bowling ball inside of it. Little dog dies. She takes that bowling ball, shoves it in an orangutan robot, maybe more like a gorilla, and then they go and fight a bunch of red robots together. Is that a fair description of that?
Yes.
Yeah, I was speculating a little bit before. So we see this blue robot, this dog-ish robot that's her companion running around that sacrifices itself to save her, leave behind this little blue orb, which she then takes and puts inside another machine.
Yeah.
But she does get that red orb. Just hold it in her hand for a second, and then gets distracted by something else.
Yeah.
So I got the vibe when she got that, I was like, ooh, I can use this for something.
Yeah.
And I wonder if blue orb is defense and red orb's offense. So I wonder if you get a red orb and put it in a machine, it'll just get really pissed and go do damage. But that's a good thing too. That you can maybe. That's akin to taking over the AI of something, and taking control of it. That maybe you can take one of those orbs and put it in one of your friendly machines, and then it, maybe not, it'll take all your commands or won't take a bullet for you, but maybe we'll just run in and mess things up.
So let's compare it directly to Phantom Dust last year, a CG trailer in which we weren't making gameplay guesses like you are right now.
Yeah, it's two people in the Central Park. They get angry and do spells, and then that's a game.
Yeah.
That didn't get me that excited.
So do you think this is a good example of how to do a CG trailer then?
Yeah. So where it's I don't think the finished product is going to be way off from that. It's not one of those things where I'm insulted. It's there's no way the game's going to look like that. It won't, but it looks. I can imagine it looks pretty good. There's clearly a definitive art aesthetic. I think it was it kind of crossed the line between being badass and being kind of fun artsy indie. There was a moment where one of the robots jumped over her and she had her gun and was just kind of brr, 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 shooting it. And I was okay, this is a little too action oriented, I think, for this premise. But you guessing is the big thing. Guessing is so important to trailers, and so it leaves you with all these questions. Whereas if it's just kind of a little tease and you can't really gather anything from it, then what was the point?
You're probably right about how the orbs work. My interpretation was just that the red orbs have malevolent intent, whereas the blue orbs are good, right? So you could side with the spirit or the feeling of the red orb, or have the blue orb fight alongside you. I don't know.
It's weird. We're thinking so much about a very ambiguous trailer.
Yeah.
But I guess that's mission successful then.
That's what they want us to do, right?
It left an imprint on this panel, so yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a weird thing too. There's the imprint is also partly because of we know who's working on this game, and we know they've made good games.
Good idea to put those names first in the trailer. Yeah. Anything else? Any other announcements that stand out to you?
Well, there's a big one that I don't think any of us really thought would have happened. Yeah, exactly.
What are you singing?
Backwards compatibility.
Chat.
Yeah, and that's. Yeah,
I
didn't think they could do that, and I had heard rumors that they were going to announce something like that last year, and I was like, nah, and it never happened, so I just kind of forgot about it. I was like, oh, you were right about that.
So it's a little strange how it works. Basically, you need the disc in your Xbox One, the 360 disc, and then you install the game. the Xbox 360 game onto your Xbox One. It doesn't work for every game. There's like a short list of games that it currently works with. I think they said hundreds by the fall. Not by the fall, but by the holiday season.
Yeah, I thought they said 100 by this year, and then they were continuing to work on them. But yeah, it's very much the same way that the Xbox 360 to Xbox worked, in the sense that they sort of have to make it work for each individual game.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna have to check a list, and it's like, well, this work, and before I buy the used copy off the shelf,
PS3 as well, but PS3 worked less and less with old games, PS2 games.
Yeah. Hopefully my old PS3 doesn't die, because I definitely use that for PS2 games.
Oh yeah, well PS2s are cheap, man.
Yeah, $50.
It's E3. Why are we talking about PS2s? Another thing is what I feel like at this press conference, I feel like Halo 5 wasn't a big deal at this press conference, and I feel like I don't understand why they have that feeling.
It was brief.
Yeah, it was
very
brief.
Yeah, compared to previous Halo outings. To really making a statement, blowing it out.
And they've got a lot to show, yeah.
Yeah, compared to Doom and Fallout. Like, you think Halo would be something that they'd be able to spend that much time, just like Bethesda did, on a franchise that's so important to Xbox. And it was just it was there.
We were playing as Spartan Locke, but I didn't really pick out anything that was like significant about it being Spartan Locke. And
I get what you mean, yeah.
I also thought they were going to narrative between those two characters, and they didn't. Like, 'cause they've been pushing that whole hunt the truth thing.
Yeah.
And we didn't get any more insight into that.
Maybe they want to keep us guessing, but I think none of us were intrigued enough to keep guessing.
No.
But of course,
I think that I think it's one of those in the interest of time kind of things, because they didn't just keep us guessing. They had a lot of stuff. We went to 3 separate Halo experience things. Yeah, there was a lot of Halo at the show. It just wasn't that much on the stage in comparison. Which is, again, like if we go back to comparing press conferences, like Bethesda had all of that because they had less things to show off.
Before we move on, I want to talk about 3 things very quickly. The Elite controller.
Yeah.
This is a controller that was announced for $150. Is fully customizable. Has like bumpers on the bottom, so you don't have to actually move your thumbs off the analog sticks to do things.
Yeah, I can adjust the gyro controls in Star Fox. I can adjust to like moving my head around and smashing buildings. I have a hard time with these 4 little paddles in my fingertips.
Wait, did you hold it? You've tried one?
Yeah, I tried it.
Cool.
So, it's interesting, but it feels like it's a very specific type of person that it's targeted to.
Or game, very specific type of, or just issue with holding many buttons at the same time.
Yeah, so I mean, controllers like this have existed already for people who are pros, who are way into it. And so this is basically marketing straight to them, just like, hey, you don't need any weird mods, don't need any weird controllers, here we're selling this to you. Do you think that's a cool idea?
Yeah, especially the PC audience, and if Microsoft is pushing their cross-compatibility. When the Divinity Original Sin guys were here, they were talking about how now that they're developing for console, it's weird going to a controller because they're trying to, figure out what to assign, certain like buttons to.
On a keyboard.
Like a keyboard button too. That they had, an infinite, finite number of keys, but a much larger number of like keyboard inputs.
Yeah.
And also just like for people with disabilities that can't necessarily reach a controller in the same way that, people that don't have disabilities can. Yeah. It might help them.
Oh yeah, just like the way you can lift out any of the buttons and you want to, and just like even the analog sticks and the D-pad. It's cool. It's a cool controller, just extremely expensive.
Just be careful how many times we say buttons. It's like Beetlejuice or like Candyman, you know what I mean?
If I say it 25 times, he might appear. I thought Microsoft probably gave the most focus to indies. I think they gave them first a montage, and we thought that was it, but then I think like 4 or 5 after the word that got a lot of attention. Four indies afterwards.
Yeah, there was Tacoma, Ashen, Beyond Eyes, and Cuphead.
Good picks. Mm-hmm. All games that look really cool, and I think we're excited for.
Yeah, and I thought those were pretty awesome. They're taking Idea to Xbox seriously, which I think is pretty cool.
There's a lot on the show too, like on the floor.
Oh, absolutely,
quite a bit.
And
both companies did.
Sony didn't seem to have a huge indie presence. Like, I'm sure there's more at the floor, but
definitely more at the floor.
They didn't. They didn't do much.
Tomorrow, Children's Playable on the floor. Nowhere in their press conference.
Nowhere in their press conference. Yeah. And also just because we watched through a ton of the Xbox Idea at Xbox trailers after the conference, but I'm having a hard time finding any additional trailers that Sony might have uploaded online for their indie games.
I think that's the thing is Microsoft kind of bundled all that stuff together and made it easy to find on their channel.
Yeah.
Whereas Sony had a lot of those games in their booth, and legitimately really supporting them.
Yeah.
But I think you pretty much have to like follow the PlayStation blog to find some of that.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to talk about is something called Gears 4. Not Gears of War 4, Gears 4.
But it is Gears of War 4.
Yeah.
Is that the full title?
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
logo
I
just
went
said
to-
Gears 4. Is
I
that
know.
funny?
I saw the Gears Hyperdrive Edition or whatever they're calling it.
Ultimate Edition.
Ultimate Edition. And
Yeah.
today they said Gears of War 4. They were
Oh,
talking
okay.
about that
So
other
it's
game.
like Fast and Furious, just like where names change depending on which like commercial you're watching.
Right.
Okay. So they had demoed this game.
Yeah.
This is the first one from formerly Black Tusk, now the Coalition. And just a studio dedicated to it. And we saw it for the first time, and it was not a big dumb Gears game. To me, it felt like a more tense, more intimate, as Hebrew would say. It was dark. It was scary. It was all night. What was
Yeah.
your impressions of it?
It looks more like, we've mentioned this on the stream, but it looks more horror
Yeah.
esque, like
Which the
Resident
first game
Evil.
was. They mentioned that at my appointment today, too.
I think that's the thing. Like the whole thing with the tornado coming and all of that, it really reminded me of the first game. Do you remember, like, if you like stepped out on a light, there were these swarms that would just like devour you?
You had to push the flaming car down the hall.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah,
road
yeah, yeah.
to
That was
get
like
away from
one of the first demos of it, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny that like that was a thing, and it feels like such an odd foreign thing. But yeah, I mean, I think, well, I think because this kind of goes back to what we were saying with them using less time. It's strange in a way because a lot of these games, like, okay, you showed the game, but I don't exactly like know like what your hook on it is or what your twist on, what you're doing differently. You just showed me the demo, and it looks, kind of different in some ways and kind of the same in a lot of other ways. And so I like, okay, what's the vision? It's like rather than getting that, it's like, here it is. It's like, here's this tiny slice and figure out the vision, or we'll wait to show you the vision later.
So what value do you think the demo had?
I think in a way it was, sort of introducing that like you're not with the same people. You might not be on the same world. It seems like, I mean, it's, it is, I think it's setting up that like, okay, this is kind of a clean break and another story, whether it's a trilogy or whatever it might be.
Yeah, Brennan, real quick, before we move on, will you be mad if there's not a 5 and a 6? Will this break the Brandon Jones rule?
Trilogy rule.
I'll be disappointed.
Okay.
But at this point, I'm not really expecting it because I don't get the sense that this is like a new chapter. Like they had such a huge cliffhanger cutoff at the end of Halo 3 that you were like, okay, if we, are reunited again with Master Chief, you really got to explain like why and where he is and what's happening and what new people he's going to bump into. Where this seems weird. They introduced 2 new characters and we don't really know if any of the old characters are showing up or what time it is, if this is a prequel or a sequel or, like, is it 100 years later? There's a bunch of questions. So it depends on what they're doing with this. If they're really intentionally trying to set up a trilogy and then they back away from it, that'll be frustrating. But
you'll get that
like,
Jones rage.
It's number 4.
Yeah. Before we move on, two quick things.
Okay.
The Forza car coming from the ceiling was so hilarious.
Yeah, that took forever.
Yeah.
They took all this time. Here's the car, and then as soon as it got down, they kind of said something about the car, and then they lifted it right back up.
Yeah. It's basically like old school dumb E3. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of dumb E3 left. And so just like little moments like that, I'm okay with cherishing. I think of like the montages we used to have to cut for like making E3 exciting on Spike. That would have been in that montage.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you can't forget that's where they officially debuted, even though we knew about it, Dark Souls 3.
Oh, yeah. Good point,
Microsoft
bud.
got that little play.
And I mean, we'll score trailers later. I don't know if it's on the list, but that was probably one of my favorite trailers.
I know, it is. I'm curious what you think about it.
Cool. All right. Well, then
also,
we'll score that.
HoloLens. Stoked. It looked great.
Oh my
Minecraft
gosh,
thing-
I forgot about HoloLens.
That Minecraft thing got me really excited. But
Doesn't
we don't
highlight.
need to... It was neat. They demoed a thing where you can put goggles on and you can see Minority Report, basically. Like you can see
and they basically...
menus and game worlds surrounding you. It's glorious.
They were tracking it on a camera for us, the audience, and so the audience was able to basically really see live how HoloLens works, and so that was kind of interesting.
And Smosh
That was
Games checked
cool.
it out and they said it's very cool. So they were
Yeah.
excited about that. All right.
Okay.
Halfway through the show, we're going to cover 2 press conferences.
Well,
so far.
cool. We're going to go by some pretty quickly now because we have EA's press conference.
Oh yeah, I missed most of this because I was getting my car
I stopped
into the
taking.
shop.
I stopped taking notes.
During EA, at what point did
Yeah.
you stop taking notes? Because we started with Mass Effect. We started a teaser for a Mass Effect on Andromeda.
I think it was NHL.
Okay.
Oh,
NHL.
I hope Matt Blair might be watching. So
Matt Miller
Careful.
wasn't even taking notes during NHL. They didn't even like talk about the modes he cares about. You know, it was basically like a graphical showpiece, and so like wasn't answering the questions Matt Blair had, at least in that one demonstration. Should we talk about Mass Effect Andromeda?
I have to abstain. I didn't finish any of the Mass Effect games, so.
Okay, so I guess not. I mean, it was another just very ambiguous teaser. You saw environments, you saw a character in armor.
I have it on the list for
Swipe
trailer
through
scores
them.
later today, and like I think we can skip it.
But here's
so short.
But
Yeah.
here's the thing, like the tagline, and you get it from the title as well, is a whole new galaxy.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
It's not
it.
like fractured but whole, like a whole new galaxy.
That was decent,
Wow.
Brandon Jones. That was not bad.
So they could throw almost everything out the window except apparently the N7 thing is back.
That's
but,
weird that the N7 thing is there. Yeah.
Yeah, because
And the red blade, you know, like jumping in the air and like I have a hollow blade. It's like that was Mass Effect 3, man. Like all of the trailers had
That blade.
Shepard with that thing. So
It came up during
something
lunch.
else.
It came up during lunch today that it could be Andromeda because it's kind of like a battle star. We're looking for a new home in a new galaxy, a new place for like civilization.
They were kind of doing that, flipping
So-
through the different scenes at the beginning,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and tried to do something where it set itself up like, what could this be? Oh, it's Mass Effect, and like when it was revealed as Mass Effect, I wanted a little bit more past that point. I thought it was kind of brief.
It's definitely something we'll see more of next year. Let's just skip straight to the obvious best part of this press conference, which was Star Wars Battlefront. What a demo.
it took a little while to get to be the best part.
Yes.
When we were counting down every minute because they
much
kept
of-
reminding us.
Much of the EA was talking, and then and then he came out and trolled everybody by bringing out concept art again. Star Wars.
Oh, is that how they started the Star Wars talk, was with concept art?
They were just talking over concept art again, yeah.
The Star Wars Battlefront demo is one of my favorite kind of E3 demos, where we start off slow, we start off quiet, we see an environment. Well, we see first we're in the tunnels. We're in the tunnels of Hoth, and it looks like how the tunnels of Hoth look like in the movies. I feel like I'm in that environment, and then we open up, we're on Hoth, and then people are shooting at us, and I have a reaction to that. I'm like, oh my gosh, the Imperial troopers are shooting at us, and so there's just feelings, and the way it ramps up.
They introduce the jetpack,
Yes.
they introduce ATSTs, and they introduce AT-ATs, and then they introduce X-wings, and then the TIE
Progression,
fighters come in and
yes.
fight the X-wings, and the tow cable, and then,
And then how does this end?
you control
They just
the
like
AT-AT.
fed it to us.
Yes.
Yeah,
basically.
and then Vader chokes out a guy, and then
Yeah.
confronts you, and then Luke shows up and confronts Vader.
Oh my God.
And you wrap it up. Even though Luke's little spin move where it looks like it's one of those things where there's good lightsaber combat, bad lightsaber combat. And Luke and Vader attack each other like they're preparing to pose. You know, like they're like, and now we clash, as opposed to
Yeah.
like Luke actually trying to hurt Vader and Vader blocking that. It seems like a very
I appreciate this pro analysis, Brandon.
that's it.
Kyle,
We're talking awesome things about Battlefront all week. I'm done. I'm being negative on it now.
Sure.
it's been a long week, so I forgive you for skipping Unravel.
No, I don't mean to skip Unravel. We'll get to it. I'm not doing
Okay.
like chronologically through
Oh, I
it at
see, I
this
see.
point.
Okay.
What is Unravel though?
It's beautiful.
What is it? What is
life.
that thing?
So basically, it's kind of, I guess, Little Big Planet. It's probably the game that you'd closest compare to it, but it's a platformer. You're playing as Yarny, the little yarn character that you manipulate his yarn to traverse the environment. But the platforms are so subtle. I think that's what you would admire about it.
Yeah.
That the environment, it's just you're kind of like moving through very, very natural scenarios. You know, you jump on a flower as opposed to a weird floating platform.
Yeah, you're 5 inches tall.
Yeah.
You're going through like grass. You're going through somebody's garden. A car drives by and it almost kills you. Like every obstacle is something that exists within our real world, and I really appreciate that.
Discovery. Exploration.
You're missing the most important one, Brandon, which is context.
Yep.
That game is full of context.
Or the search for it, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
really understanding like why is this world the way it is. It's lonely, but it's not like post-apocalyptic, and you don't really get a like set up. I mean, I played a little bit more than we saw at Judges Week, and like I still don't know like how Yarny happened, like how if it was like some fairy godmother was like, you little Yarny, you know, and like then he goes out into the world. And there's some other trippy things that we didn't see
Yeah,
at
well,
the gameplay demo, but
I
it was fun.
think too, you know, what the other thing that like makes it more similar to say Little Big Planet than Yoshi or Kirby is it's more physics based platforming. You know, so it's like not like those like finely tuned things. It's like some things can kind of happen unexpectedly and stuff start rolling downhill and all that kind of thing.
And so it was cool for EA to announce this game. This game was basically, I think, the only new IP announced during EA's press conference. And so that
Minions Paradise.
That's not a new IP.
They did. They had, I think, 2 mobile games, or was it just Minions?
It was just Minions.
Didn't they have a Star Wars mobile game?
There are Star Wars mobile games. We didn't talk about it.
It was like Star Wars Force something. Yeah, there was a Star Wars one
Force
right
Commander?
before Minions. Ah, man.
It wasn't.
Oh, we got some chatter back there. Maybe in chat will let us know the Star Wars mobile game that was announced during that press
You know,
conference.
what I like about Unravel is, we're getting excited about so many things at E3, but it's like you watch Doom, it's just like blood, blood, blood. And we watch like, not this kind of blood, the actual blood. We watch like Fallout, it's just like VATS, get headshots.
Blood,
and we
blood,
watch
blood,
like
blood.
Battlefront, it's like, killing
Blood, blood,
stormtroopers
blood, blood.
and blowing people up. And then like, I just love that like in this Unravel commercial, he like ties like yarn around the back of a fish and he's like riding the fish and everyone's like, yes!
Like,
Yeah.
you ride that fish.
Like, good on you, EA. Thanks for publishing this game.
Yeah, this was the kind of thing that I was expecting more from Ubisoft. And Martin Solin, the developer, he gave like a really, sweet story about how he goes, on vacations to like cottages in remote places with his family, and that's where how he got thinking about a game like this. So I think that the game might will maybe be about the actual family that Yarny not came from, but the yarn that was there that sort of gave life to him.
The Chronicles of Yarnia.
Oh, man, you are on fire. How do you do this?
I got some Kaiser
We're
in
all
me
so
right now.
exhausted.
Maybe that's what
so
Kaiser does. He
tired.
just gets exhausted.
At least let's
The
talk
puns
about
just
what did
fly.
happen at Ubisoft. So there's no cool art games at Ubisoft? There's no typical thing like Tales of Valor? What is it called?
Valiant Hearts.
Valiant
or
Hearts.
Child of Light. I've
Yeah.
been a broken record on this all week because I was really looking for a UB art.
But remember, this
Yeah.
show is engineered for people who haven't seen any of that.
Yeah, and you didn't get a UB art game.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
You're absolutely bitter about it.
Oddly enough, we
Yeah.
did get a new Southpark game, which I threw out there as a prediction, like just kind of off the cuff, and I'm like, oh, I was right on that.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not.
I was
from,
wrong on my other predictions, but I was right on that.
It's not from Obsidian though.
Oh, that's interesting.
But the Obsidian guys said that they're excited for it.
Oh, personally, when you
Yeah.
talk to them, that's funny.
They probably are using their engine, so.
Yeah. A new South Park RPG. What is the name of this game?
South Park, The Fractured But Whole.
Great
Yeah.
pun.
name.
That's a great pun.
That's the name.
And so this has a more superhero-oriented thing, because like the last one they were kind of dressing up in their Lord of the Rings / Game of Thrones-esque characters,
Yeah.
and this one they're using their superhero characters.
Yeah.
And it's apparently a continuation of the story.
Yeah.
And then they brought out Matt and Trey on stage with Aisha Tyler and just were telling mad jokes.
And
They
there
were
is a strange importance to that, because I remember before Stick of Truth came out, and we were talking to some of the South Park games, they're like, wait, no, you've seen Imagination Land, or something. There was like some setup, they're like, you've seen this, right? Like the console wars, like you've seen that,
Yeah.
because that's like crucial for the lore. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
That's
South
such a
Park
good
lore? Are you
episode.
serious?
Yeah.
Not that there isn't lore to South Park, but that is
Yeah.
required to play the game and understand it. So I could totally see it's like you kind of, if this intrigues you, you probably play Stick of Truth. Otherwise, you're probably
Yeah.
going to miss a lot of the jokes.
And now you need to know like Cartman's like superhero arc on the show too.
The Coon, you got to watch
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
Mysterion, I think.
Yeah, I
was,
think it's Mysterion.
I think it's I think it's only been 2 years. Yeah.
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 Very cool for Ubisoft
But-
to use that license like that. I'm cool with that.
I love that they just kind of like seamlessly are transitioning from like sort of like a medieval fantasy to like superhero. I think that's so much fun instead of just doing medieval fantasy again.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a sequel that does something different, and we're on board. Let's move on to Sony.
There's a huge thing from
What are you talking
Ubisoft
about?
we got to talk about.
No, we're already way over schedule.
Honor.
All
Okay,
right, this
For
could
Honor.
be-
We
this
just
could
got to
be-
say
We
For
have to
Honor.
talk about For
And we
Honor.
got a news Ghost Recon.
What is
That was
For
cool.
Honor?
For Honor is it's kind of like a MOBA, but it's mostly a fighting game where you got the little soldiers on your side, and it's 4v4, and you run to a battlefield and you mess up the other.
I don't see
four
how it's kind of like a
soldiers.
MOBA, and I
Here's the
played
thing-
it today.
Here's the thing. Everyone's a sword. Every character is a person with a sword. That's all you got.
Right.
That's so cool.
You are a hero class, and you have all these other little dudes that are trying to go into the opponent's base.
Yeah, I'd say that's kind of
If
like a
you
MOBA.
destroy one of the other heroes, then
I'll allow
you
it,
gain
Brandon.
access possibly to more spots on the map, and you have special abilities, and just seems MOBA-esque. Just it has that similarity.
Maybe. What's cool though is it's by the same guy that did Red Steel 2, which I felt like I was the only guy that recognized him when he came on
Oh,
stage.
cool.
But,
Absolutely, you are. I would
but-
have no idea who made Red Steel 2.
and I got to talk to him slightly today. But it's great because the way the combat works is like, you raise your sword to a stance. So it's like either up, left, or down. And so when someone's at you in your face, like you've got to recognize where they're going to attack you from, and you've got to block accordingly. and so it really like has that sense of a really good sense of reading the other person,
like actual sword fighting.
Yeah,
that is what is very cool about.
And I had this great moment today, which they said they haven't seen a lot. Which I don't know. People keep telling me that all week, so I don't know who to believe. But usually, like when somebody's like 2-on-1, like that's it. Like they're just not going to be able to respond to both people. But I was able to like, okay, block you, and like took them both down
with two real people in real life.
Well, that's maybe.
Oh, okay.
Because they were doing. It's supposed to be 4-on-4, but they had us 2-on-2, and then 2 bots filling in on each team.
Got it.
So half of us were not real.
But Bloodworth is a pretty good sword fighter, at least.
We didn't quite win the whole thing, but we were like neck and neck, and then the timer cut us off.
And Ghost Recon Wild Hogs.
Wildlands.
Right. Wild at heart.
I love that we're calling it that.
That's the official. Oh, hey, Ian's here. Hi, Ian.
Hi.
Did you take Don off duty?
Yeah, man, he's been in here all day.
Yeah.
I feel real bad for him. He had no one else here to back him up.
He's doing good, though. We had a real smooth start to GT time. Everything's going great.
Yeah, he said everything went well.
We had such a good smooth start, and we did another one. Even smoother.
So we should quickly.
I said up, left, or down instead of up, left, or right.
Very quickly recap what that game is.
Open world Ghost Recon, less military, more like drug cartel, gotta take them down.
And who's excited? Who was pumped by that being at the end of the Ubisoft press conference?
I'm excited about anything open world. Mike Huber checked it out, and he dug it. So
cool.
Ben liked it too. I think it's interesting. When I saw the demo, there was a lot of people being really far away from each other and having to get into place. So you have to be patient with your friends, I think.
You have to want it.
Yeah.
It's so funny to have Ghost Recon in the wilderness. Because I remember, like, my first impression of Ghost Recon, it's the Xbox 360 is just about launching. And this is the first Xbox 360 game where I was like, whoa, that is next gen. And it was urban. It was like a building blowing up. What's up, Ian?
I was just gonna say, so Huber played it, and he's less down on it.
Yep.
Well, he didn't play it, though. He probably saw the demo.
he's less down on it. He's more down with it.
Yeah. Cool.
The one cool thing they kind of did was they kind of like played factions against each other. There's like, guys that are, they're sort of friendly, but they're having an argument, and then you snipe them from far enough away to they think that the other guys shot them.
Yeah.
And then use that as a distraction.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm into that kind of thing.
That's Ubi.
That's Ubi. So let's talk about Sony. Sony's press conference was Monday night.
Mm-hmm. So you have the trifecta.
What's the trifecta?
Last Guardian, Final Fantasy VII, Shenmue 3.
Brandon, how can you possibly say that so casually?
That's what I've just heard people talking about that. They're like, those were the three.
Yeah,
they were
but
the three dreams.
How can you possibly say those 3 titles in such a casual breath?
Because Sony was kind of casual about it.
They were not at all.
They just kind of like strolled down on stage.
So nonchalant.
My gosh.
I'd say they were coy.
Please allow me to reiterate what Brandon just said. In a press conference at E3, we saw The Last Guardian, we saw a Shenmue 3 Kickstarter announcement, and we saw a Final Fantasy Remake trailer all in one press conference. And those are arguably like not even the best trailers or demos of the thing. Those were the huge news stories that came out of it.
Right.
Which of those means the most, Brandon? Or are they all huge?
Where do you even? Yeah. Where do you compare them?
I think Final Fantasy VII is the without a doubt the crowning announcement out of all of those, as far as because you can see, like, once you hear that Shenmue is a Kickstarter, it's like, oh, okay, I could see that happening. Like, we just got off some major Kickstarters that got funding super fast, so like this is a story that we're seeing repeating a lot. Last Guardian was I think I felt pretty good that it was going to be there. We had a lot of rumors leading up to it. It was a game that was already shown at E3, so that kind of took away from stealing the thunder. Not to mention that the demo we saw was the trailer that we saw before, and so when like the platform was falling apart, it was like, oh no, we've seen this. It was like we kind of knew like some of the beats that were going to happen in that segment because we've already seen the gameplay of that before. Where 7. What could have just been an announcement, could have just been a screenshot, could have just been somebody on Square Enix coming out and being like, no, Adam Boyes isn't bullshitting you, this actually is going to happen. Yeah. But clearly showed a very interestingly packaged trailer that just ends with like, it's presumably an engine. I don't know. I mean, there's just so many.
Ends with the word remake.
Yeah.
That's the most significant part to me.
Remaster.
Right. There's no question about what this game is with that one word. It's not a classy word to put in your trailer, but I freaking love that they did. Just no questions at the end.
Well, what I love is everyone sort of had different moments of recognition, and it's like But then there's also like that weighted with disbelief.
Yes.
Because it's like as soon as I saw the live stream or whatever like on the screen before they even cut to the trailer full screen, I'm like, what? No, what are you guys? Why are you doing this?
I got angry. Yeah.
You could.
Yeah, you got angry when.
And
you
I'm
saw
like,
live stream.
I'm just over there yelling at the screen. And then Matt Blair is like, I still don't even know what this is. And I'm like, dude, come on.
Calling him out.
That was my favorite thing about. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that was my favorite thing about both the Last Guardian announcement and the Final Fantasy remake announcement. Probably tempered or like made more prevalent because of how they did that. PCs coming, the PC remake. We're porting that to the PS4 thing. Yeah.
Back at PSX.
Because when he started talking about Last Guardian, he was like, it's about companionship and about all this, and like everyone in the audience was like, all right, and everyone's opinion was just like, don't you mess with us, don't do this again, you know. And then when Final Fantasy, we were like, oh my, if you're doing this again, I swear. And then it just made it all the sweeter because it was just like, yeah, you did it.
And you know what's interesting in opposition to those two is the Shenmue announcement started with the word Kickstarter big on screen.
Yeah.
So that one actually prepared you. I almost like, this is a Kickstarter straight from the top. Shenmue 3 is coming, but it is a Kickstarter. Is that unusual? Is that weird for that to be in a press conference?
Yeah, because it was almost like they just announced a Kickstarter and not an actual game.
Do
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if I were to bet on it, I would say you would lose a bet if you said that game was announced.
It's basically the exact opposite of what, what's his name? Igarashi did with Bloodstained, because he said, hey, we're doing a Kickstarter, and we're doing this to gauge interest. We have a lot of other backers, but they want to see the money and the interest before they help us back. This is basically Sony implying, hey, we're making Shenmue, but we also want you to show that it's a good idea and like back it, you know? It's like exactly the same but backwards.
It's so weird because a good thing is happening. I want to be clear, a very, very good thing is happening that Shenmue 3 is being made. A game I thought would never be made is being made. Just so weird to announce it at E3 during a press conference. Like, what if it didn't make it? Like, what a strange thing to put in your press conference. I mean, maybe they're just being nice. Maybe they want the most attention to it. But Sony already does have some investment in it because they've already said it won't come to Xbox One. So they paid money for that to be an exclusive to help with development and everything. It's weird. It's honestly a weird deal. I'm still stoked about it, but it feels weird.
Why didn't they just say, we want to know your feedback. We want to know if you want a Shenmue 3. Head to PlayStation.com/save Shenmue and let it. $3 million
free dollars.
That, I think Ian hit that. Yeah, absolutely.
And advertising. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like, they could have just done that.
Well, yeah, before they actually got to the reveal, I was like, man, like whoever got this Kickstarter just got a free pass.
Yeah, and isn't that
what do you mean by that?
By being on the Sony stage like that when everybody is watching them.
Oh yeah, but I think there are actually very few games that could do that. And that's why I'm not too scared about it. I think that there aren't a lot of other games that you could put a Kickstarter in your press conference.
The whole thing was very intentional.
Yeah.
Like, Kickstarter at this point almost isn't even a funding source anymore. It's an advertising source where people pay you to advertise to them.
Actually, you know what? Maybe if like Silent Hills did a thing, it would be a similar, just kind of. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
But honestly, I think there's a real limited amount of titles that have that kind of prestige, where if you do that Kickstarter, it gets funded immediately.
And it doesn't make you look completely like a scumbag.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
I bet Silent Hills would be funded even faster than this. Sorry.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. I'm most excited for Last Guardian. That's perfectly in my wheelhouse. Like a story of like human animal companionship.
And so was that
so
weird?
Excited.
Was that weird to just see it? It looks exactly as what we remembered it.
Yeah,
right?
And I think that's intentional.
Mm-hmm.
I think like the frame rate on those feathers, that's intentionally like done to make it look as similar as possible. Because otherwise, we're gonna be like, what the hell were those guys doing for 10 years?
But on the other hand, what the hell were those guys doing for 10 years? Because like the game announces and they're like, it's coming out in 2016.
They got held up.
They've answered that question in interviews.
Yeah.
I
What
mean,
did they say?
Like, it's as vague as you would expect it to be, but apparently, like, the project reset, I think, in the year 2012.
That's
when it was clear it wasn't going to work out on PS3.
Okay.
And so they had to build it from scratch at that point. But exactly.
Because like what Brandon said is like the demo we saw was the trailer that we saw, kind of. And I mean that's obviously like a little bit of a simplification, but like on the other hand, it's like Yeah, show a new area or something, because
Yeah.
at this point I'm like, is this all that's done of this game? Because damn.
Yeah, it's not. It is. I honestly, I think it's a tease. I think it's meant to be a tease, and as much as possible. And I'm ready to not see any more of it until the game comes out.
2 more big things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Horizon.
Yes, that's a huge thing. Horizon
Dinos.
Zero Dawn.
What's funny is we talked about this weird like concept art and
On this very show.
Yeah, it looks so bizarre, and I think a lot of us kind of forgot about it. I know I forgot about it. And when people were like, I think right before the show, people were like, "Why didn't you bring up Horizon?" And I'm like, "Well, what is it?" And then I saw it, I was like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
I remembered when I saw the satellite brachiosaurs or whatever they are.
Dinosaur robots, basically.
Yeah.
Robots that are infused with, or dinosaurs that are like basically run off technology. It's the craziest looking game. Not just visually, like, oh, this is gorgeous, but like a neat idea. And introduced as post-apocalyptic, which we're way used to. However,
Post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
what'd I say?
Post-apocalyptic.
Sorry, it's post-post?
Post.
That's what they said?
That's what they call it.
That
yeah.
must be why
Which
it's
I
gorgeous.
love.
It's like
Yeah.
it's visually nice looking. It's not a nasty dark world.
The
It's
Earth has
like a
reclaimed
beautiful
it.
world. Yeah. And just some environments. And the leak was that it was an RPG. So I was like looking at it through this lens of I'm looking at an RPG right now. And so the environments look like towns and things like
Yeah.
that. I'm super into it.
Can I tell you my favorite part of that whole trailer?
Please do.
When she's crouched, creeping through the like shrubs and bushes toward the beginning, just because I think it looks so good. Like the robo dinos are cool. It's all cool, but I don't know why. I just look at that and it looks so gorgeous and like fluid as she's moving.
Well, like stealth is fun. It's getting really fun as foliage gets more dense
Yeah.
and as games get more detailed, because like a lot of old games we played, they're like, go into this grassy area, no one will be able to see you. And like you just know that because you know what grass looks like, not because like this person actually wouldn't be able to see me. But you have games now where it's like, nah, I wouldn't be able to see that at all.
No.
You know,
yeah.
if the wind was just kind of moving over the leaves and you shuffle a little bit, like you'd vanish in that foliage. So
I'm so excited about it too, because for my whole life, plants have always been like one of my favorite things in video games, because they can really transport you. You know, they really set the setting well.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited. Yeah, that game looks phenomenal.
Somebody
The
said,
first thing
"No
I
way,
noticed-
Horizon is open world." It's totally open world.
definitely open world.
No loading screens or anything. Yeah.
They made a point to say that. Yeah, I saw the
pretty
demo
cool.
today. They said
Chat's
that's
all
how-
saying it's a strawberry.
It's a what?
Monty Python.
It's a
Holy
strawberry.
crap.
And another awesome
Nah,
announcement.
it's going to fly over my head.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
that
God.
surprisingly didn't happen the following morning at the Square Enix press conference. New Hitman.
Sorry, that's
the-
your second big thing?
That's my 5th big thing
Whoa.
from the Sony press
I
conference.
thought you were going to No Man's Sky.
Or Uncharted 4?
Yeah, Uncharted 4, sure, yeah. Sorry.
Whoa! Excuse me, sir.
Well, we finally saw Uncharted 4 gameplay that we were expecting, whereas no one was for sure if we were going to get a reboot of Hitman. So I think purely like
goodness.
a takeaway from. I think if you were leaving the Sony press conference knowing that Hitman is coming back versus knowing that Uncharted looks good is a more surprising
Yeah.
announcement. Is it like a bigger take? Like, whoa, did you hear about the Hitman? And it's like, yeah, but did you? I mean, my jaw dropped when I found out Uncharted was good.
Well,
You're like,
the Hitman trailer, I don't think communicated that much. It communicated style and tone, but it didn't really communicate what kind of game you'd be playing.
sure.
As opposed to Uncharted 4, which was played live. This is an interesting E3 moment, is that the first time run through it, it was not working. By the time, Uncharted always does this, you're watching a cutscene and then suddenly it's like, oh, it's time for me to go. And I thought that's what they were playing with. Nathan Drake did not move. And it's just like, oh, okay, they're just having a joke. And then he did not move, and then he did not move, and then he did not move. And then so they did the right thing and they just restarted. They said, okay, you know what? This isn't working. Time to restart. We're just going to get it right the second time. And then so the second time through, that demo totally worked, and it is the demo that I wanted at PSX. When I was being a crybaby at PSX and looked like a big crybaby, it was because it didn't have these moments. This is, again, much like Battlefront, even though they're two totally different games, has that kind of E3 demo pacing that I freaking love. Slow at the beginning, big reveal, twists, progression, huge thing at the end, cut to title. Oh my gosh, everything I always look for. To me, that was probably the best demo at that press conference.
Live demo, yeah.
Live demo.
You compare that to
Only?
like Gears.
Oh,
you know,
aside
like-
from No Man's Sky, I guess.
And also Call of Duty Black Ops 3, which because this is a news podcast, we should talk about.
Skip it.
To me, it's I don't like this part of the business, but Sony was proud to announce that now Call of Duty Black Ops 3 DLC comes first on PlayStation.
Right.
Xbox has lost that deal.
One thing, real quick, one thing that I really admired about the way they restarted the Uncharted demo was that they just restarted it. They didn't cut to what's his name going like, oh, or they didn't have like Adam Boyce come out and be like, oh, technical difficulties. You know, they just redid it.
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, everybody makes mistakes. We're just gonna reboot.
Not a big deal.
It was awesome.
You forget to hit record. It's not a big deal. You just go.
It's great.
Yeah. Let's talk about Call of Duty. Is that a big deal to anyone here that PlayStation paid for whatever that costs?
I mean, it's not a big deal to me personally in any way.
But I mean, to the industry, is that a big deal?
I think it is. I think it kind of cements this sort of like shift in perspective that, you know, it's like, okay, this gen, I guess PS4 is the way to go. You know, it's you know, it's just about following sales numbers though. You know, it really comes down to that. Just kind of how, like, why did Dragon Quest go onto the DS? Because the DS was the best selling console.
Okay.
That was it, you know, like that was the only reason. And that's what's happening, you know, right now. PS4 is got better sales, and so okay, we're out of the Microsoft deal. Let's do the PlayStation deal now.
I guess one reason why it's interesting to me as well is that if you look at this fall, Xbox is committed hard to its first-party games, whereas I feel like Sony is committed hard to these third-party games. It's committed to Star Wars, it's committed to Destiny, and it's committed to Call of Duty.
Definitely. That was my biggest takeaway, is that Microsoft actually has games coming out in 2015. Like Sony has Until Dawn.
And Hitman and
Hitman. I'm talking in terms of first party.
Oh.
Yeah, because again, that's Sony focusing on third party. Like they are really just focusing all their advertising on that stuff. It looks like this fall.
And I mean, it's smart, and especially like gamers. I mean, they're still getting a ton of games, so why not push third party if you can just license these games and you don't necessarily have to pay for their development. But that's, I guess, what I appreciated from Xbox was at least, and same with Nintendo. I still appreciated that Nintendo, regardless of whether they were games that we want, and maybe we have been disappointed, and maybe that's us being spoiled, or I'm not entirely sure.
We'll get to Nintendo.
But I still felt like I was trying to give you your transition, Kyle, but I got.
Well, we got another couple of ones to skip through between then.
But
yeah, there's not a lot of first party stuff on that list that is actually this year. It's very true.
There isn't a ton.
Let's transition. Let's move on. Let's talk about Square Enix. No, Nintendo was first actually the next morning.
Yeah.
That would have been
They
it.
started with
She
the
knows
puppets.
her business.
No,
She can
at least
transition
I just had those two things completely misarranged.
I know. It's been a long week.
Yeah. I thought Square Enix came first. So, of course, Nintendo came first, and Square Enix was scared out of the time slot a few weeks ago.
Totally.
So it was Nintendo's digital event that went live 9 a.m. on Tuesday. And Elise was happy that they put out first-party games, even though everyone else dislikes them.
I think that's the one thing that we can take away from it, is that they still were putting out not first-party games, because I mean all their games are essentially first-party at this point, but they were putting out games that are available within the next 6 to 9 months, which Sony wasn't necessarily doing that, but Nintendo was like, hey, at least you can play some games in the fall and over Christmas, over the holidays.
What games exactly did we learn about that we can play over this fall and the Christmas from the Nintendo Direct?
Star Fox is coming out later this year.
Star Fox Zero, yeah. So that was the opening announcement.
Yeah, for the Wii U.
Yeah.
So it's probably one of the last games we'll be getting for the Wii U.
Xenoblade Chronicles? Or is that next year?
That's coming out this year. Absolutely.
Yeah,
this year for sure.
December, yeah.
Yarn Yoshi coming out this year?
Yeah. Well, it's coming out very soon everywhere except North America.
Mario Tennis is this year.
Yeah.
And Mario Maker.
Yokai Watch, Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes is this year.
Yeah, did you see? I wish I had a high-res version of that timeline.
What timeline?
Nintendo has this timeline thing at their media check-in desk, and they sent it out in an email too, but it was postage stamp size. I don't know why they did that. But yeah, it's it just got all the titles on a timeline. It's this is when these are coming out, all in a nice little row, so that you can understand what's coming out by the end of the summer, what's coming out by the end of the year, what's coming out after that in 2016 or later.
Why I wouldn't trust that, Daniel Bloodworth, is that very same timeline last year mentioned Zelda Wii U and Project Giant Robot and Project Shield. Project Guard.
Well, yeah, but
you know what I mean? That's
why do you always
nonsense.
get that name wrong?
because I don't care about it. It's like you remember the names of the people you care about most, but like it just Project Shield or Guard. It's so irrelevant to me.
It's a
both
very
projects.
good point, Kevin.
You beat me to it.
Oh man, Ian's
Damn it.
Well,
sorry.
see, but you
Brandon.
took the angle of supplanting the name. I was
Yeah.
gonna be like, yeah, good point. Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Brandon, are there any games that Nintendo announced that you're going to play? I was thinking about this because
Brandon
Star Fox,
games.
maybe, right?
Star Fox is good.
Brandon, you playing Star Fox? Star Fox Zero?
Probably not.
Was there anything that Nintendo had to offer you?
Oh boy. Yarn Yoshi, me and the missus will definitely be playing
Yeah.
for sure.
Me
And that
the
game is
missus.
actually pretty challenging. Omar and I played it.
Yeah,
It's a cool game.
she's way down with that. Like some of these I should, it's like Fire Emblem. I should probably play the old Fire Emblem on my 3DS. Really, have no excuse.
No, that's probably a really great game.
I'm very ashamed, but there are parts of Happy Home Designer that do.
No. I'm not gonna let
entice
you
me in
play
weird
that one.
ways.
Oh my God! Don't do that to yourself.
But yeah, that's it. Star Fox. I gotta be honest. I'm probably not gonna play that.
Why not? What do you think is missing from Star Fox?
Graphics.
Ooh.
Ian, what do you mean by that?
I'm just trolling because that's what everyone's gripe is.
Okay, Brandon, what do you feel like you're missing out on in that game? What's the appeal that's like that sting that's missing?
I've never been that attached to Star Fox. Maybe that's it. I played on the Super Nintendo, but I've never played. I didn't play the 64 version.
Oh,
I didn't play.
wow.
I played
Okay.
Assault for like 5
This is
seconds.
very
but-
Star Fox 64.
Right.
It looks exactly like it.
Yeah, that's why I think you need to have like huge nostalgia for 64
I
Star Fox.
think it was
to be into this.
intentional,
Maybe, yeah.
but also cheaper.
Yeah, let's frame this. Let's frame this with the way Reggie started this presentation. Of course, the puppets were great. We saw puppet versions of Reggie Fils-Aimé, Satoru Iwata, and Shigeru Miyamoto.
Elise and I met those puppets.
Yeah, so those puppets are made by like Jim Henson Company. They are legit puppets. It's worth looking up if you haven't seen them at least.
They're beautiful.
And so this presentation started so jolly, so perfect. We are just all on board. They started turning into Star Fox characters. We of course see Star Fox, but anyway, after that, Reggie comes on and he says, "Nintendo is transforming this year. The theme of this is transformation."
Like Metroid.
Yeah.
Metroid.
Well-
and then I'm thinking Twilight Princess HD.
To me, when he started citing those things, because he said, we're doing our theme parks with Universal Studios.
Yeah.
We're teaming up with DNA for our mobile initiative. I'm like, whoa, he's going to drop some huge news. And then he says, we're not talking about NX until next year. And then that was it, And then
Right.
from there on, we saw that Nintendo hasn't changed. We saw that Nintendo doing the exact same things it's been doing with lots of games of reused assets.
They did some kind of weirdo things.
Well, just give me some weirdo things, Blood.
Skylanders?
What did they do with
the
Skylanders?
Mario.
Like they had, they
I'm
had
sorry.
Amiibo are turning into Skylanders and vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yeah.
Bowser and
But they're
Pikachu.
they're Skylanders first with Amiibo functionality.
How does that work?
There's like a switch on the bottom of them. So so basically it looks like Activision or whoever they have do the actual toys, made them. They're made for Skylanders. And the Skylanders have the vehicles, so they have vehicles as well this year.
And which Nintendo characters are made into Skylanders?
It's Donkey Kong. And what's the other one?
It's Bowser.
Donkey
Bowser.
Kong and Bowser. And they're weird versions of them. Bowser's holding a hammer and he's got weird, like, Skylanders-esque armor.
Yeah,
Basically, they're made to fit in the world.
It's
Yeah.
turbocharged Donkey Kong and Hammer Slam Bowser.
Thank you for those notes, Elise. We need those
problem.
names.
No
Those are
problem.
so good. And they each come with a
Elise,
vehicle, too.
Do you know if the cars by themselves function as Amiibo as
Yeah.
well?
The
Oh,
cars,
they-
sorry, the
Oh.
cars are not going to be Amiibo, but they will be Skylanders.
Oh, they won't be Amiibo,
Yeah,
but they'll be
Yeah,
Skylanders.
because I know they're Amiibo, but
Yeah.
the cars aren't. They're just
Yeah.
for Skylanders.
Correct.
Exactly,
Okay.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and each one comes with a specialized vehicle, too. Man, what a cool collaboration. You're right. Blood, that was probably definitely, honestly, the biggest surprise is that, hey, they're teamed up with Activision. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a huge surprise of that event.
What are the other weirdo thing is probably the whole Metroid Prime Federation, whatever. Who wants to play that game?
Federation Force.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I mean, I had the name, but I just didn't care at that point.
Oh, much like me and Project Guard. So what is that game? What is Federation Force?
It's like a multiplayer thing with the guys that are not Samus, who don't seem to have any personality, and then they play soccer together.
I feel like you're sabotaging that game on purpose, Blood. They're all super
it's just,
deformed.
yeah, that's the thing too. Like,
Yeah.
they're like really weird, like cutesy looking versions. I'm like, what? How does this fit into like Metroid in any way?
And the weird thing about bringing this up, people are even more extreme than Bloodworth on their opinions of it. There was like some survey. What is that? It's not a petition
Oh,
where
yeah?
people were so mad that this game exists. that they wanted Nintendo not to release it. So that's of course an extreme, but like people feel very negative about this game. I think because the word Metroid Prime is attached to it. Is that what that's about, Blood?
Well, I think so, because you haven't seen any kind of Metroid game, and then you're gonna have this spin-off that it doesn't seem to fit in any way. It's just it's like an extension of the Nintendo Land thing, more or less.
Those could have been like, Did you say? I'm so tired. Did you just say Nintendo Land?
Yeah.
Okay. I like heard it but didn't hear it, and I was gonna say those could have been Nintendo Land games.
Get up on that desk. You gotta get up on that desk. What is exciting? Sorry, we only did one that time, Ian. We'll do two next time. We'll do two next time.
I'm really tired too. I was ready to just go for it.
We're on an hour, right? This
Yeah.
You've been going for an hour?
I'm accepting we're going way over. This is for E3. Basically, most podcasts do super podcast versions, and I had to accept that. The moment I went like Sony, and we're like, no, we're still on Ubisoft, bro. I'm like, okay, you're right. This is just gonna be a long podcast.
Hey, wait, real quick, since we're wasting time anyway. Here's a question.
Yeah.
Will the Amiibo Skylanders cost more? Because Nintendo needs a cut too.
I think honestly, they'll get packaged in. I think like if you buy the Nintendo version of it, you're just getting those in there instead, or as a bonus.
Oh,
that's my guess.
Yeah, that's interesting.
There's more to it with like the car or whatever, right?
Yeah, man, they're probably gonna be very expensive. They're probably going to be harder to find.
The car ones are going to be expensive anyway, but I wonder if the Nintendo ones are going to be more expensive.
So back to Metroid Prime Federation Force, I think what Brandon, like along that line, is just like, you know how like Rogue One is coming, and that's going to be a 6 Star Wars movie that doesn't take place in the main Star Wars storyline. I think that Metroid has room for stuff like that, but I think what's happening is, like Bloodwood just said, there's no other Metroid game. And so the way Rogue One is working is it's in between Metroid games, Star Wars movies. So do you think people would be less mad with Federation Force if there was a regular Metroid game?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if they had just said, we are working on a new Metroid game, but we'd like to show you another project that was inspired out of a love of Metroid. Like, if they had just framed it like that, I don't think people would have been mad.
Yeah, I think framing was a huge issue for most of this digital event, to be honest.
Think about it as, like, if they had talked about the, what's the Triforce?
Heroes.
Triforce Heroes. If they had talked about that, but they had never announced the Wii U Zelda.
Yeah.
Like if they went straight from Link Between Worlds to Triforce Heroes, and you're like, okay, when are we getting another Zelda still? The question is still there.
Yeah. I absolutely get that.
Because it's the same thing. It's like the opposite of what Sony did. Like Sony comes out and they're like, there's been this game that people have wanted for a really long time, and there's a Kickstarter that's maybe going to start for it, and we want to support this. You're just like, what are you doing? Like, oh my goodness. And then like you're playing on our emotions, and then they finally deliver because they know what they have, and so they want to like tease you beforehand. And like Nintendo does that and doesn't give us the thing. Nintendo comes out and has like Metroid Prime in the font. And you're like, oh, and they're like, in this game, isn't this great? And it's like, you must have known what we were going to be thinking, and like maybe they don't.
Yeah.
Like,
what if they took Shenmue and they just like took the little figurines that you get out of the machines,
Oh yeah.
And they made a game out of that.
It's like made a game out of chai. Yeah. It's just the worst.
What were the figures that Craig said, the upvotes to downvotes on YouTube for the Metroid?
It was 29,000 downvotes and 3,000 upvotes, I think.
For that trailer.
For that
bums me
Federation
out.
Force
The
trailer.
game doesn't deserve that, and I think it's really anger at Nintendo more than the anger at the game.
Well, that's the thing. Because here's the thing, too, is it's like Nintendo's afraid to put a new IP on it, but it really shouldn't be a Metroid game. Like,
I would love for that to be a Metroid game.
No, it could be. That game could perfectly be whatever it is without being Metroid. And hey, that's cool. It's a new little IP, a little multiplayer game, but it's getting more anger because it is called Metroid.
But like Rogue One could just be a sci-fi war movie, but it's like Star Wars Rogue One, and it actually like helps it. And I feel like
the difference is that it's exactly what you guys were saying before. They have announced the plan.
Yeah.
It's Star Wars Prime off game. Or off movie, Star Wars Prime 2, off movie, Star Wars Prime 3. We know, so
we
we're
need
not
some
afraid.
Metroid Primes, is what you're saying.
And we're also, pretty sure that Rogue One is going to be a badass movie. It's written by Gary Whitta, who wrote Episode 7. Like, we've already seen a teaser that was released at Star Wars Celebration that was awesome. It's like, it's dealing with really cool subject matter, like in between, the old Star Wars movies. So,
and
like, just based on what we know now, it's kind of setting up for, like, lots of curious things. And this is, like, nothing. There's nothing we can learn about Samus or Metroids or is it Metroids?
Yeah.
For plural?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or the universe or these three guys, like these,
If it was just Federation Force, would we have cared? If they just dropped the Metroid and
It
called
would
the
have kind
game
of been like
Federation Force.
Codename Steam when that was first announced. Where you're just like, well, we'll see more of this.
Yeah.
See what this ends up being.
Before we wrap up on Nintendo, I do want to say that if you like JRPGs, there's some legit games on Nintendo consoles. Like
They're
Shin
saying
Megami-
Weta didn't do episode 7, but I don't know.
Who's they?
The chat.
Oh, okay.
They're all screaming.
Said what?
What? Let's look it up.
This Wii U has
Said what?
Xenoblade
Wait,
Chronicles
what?
X.
Wait, what?
Okay.
Wait, who?
Oh, well, we're really digging into
Well,
this.
live chat
Oh,
is really
boy.
affecting the potential
What did you
for
just
next
say,
week's
Bloodworth?
corrections.
They said that
That-
he wasn't writing episode 7. I don't
That
know.
Gary Whitta did not write episode 7?
Oh boy. Okay, we're gonna need live
Oh,
fact
boy.
checking. I got to move on though.
I'd like to know who was writing episode 7 then. I thought it was Gary Whitta. Gary
it
Whitta
up
has
on- look it up on your
tweeted
phone.
multiple times that he's writing it.
Look it up on your phone.
I didn't know.
Check that on your phone. Don't wait for chat.
She's doing it. She's doing it.
Okay, Xenoblade Chronicles X is coming to the Wii U. Fire Emblem Cross Shin Megami Tensei, the other way around, Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem, is coming to the Wii U. That's crazy.
It
to
has a
me.
weird name that I didn't even bother writing down because it's so weird.
You know what's dumb about the digital event? They played the Japanese version of this trailer without even putting on subtitles. They just had us listen to Japanese voices without even explaining what they were saying, and then showed us a Japanese title that we can't read.
Right.
That to me is insane. that is just like beyond
It's
this
very
level of
weird.
Oh, yeah, I lied.
misunderstanding.
Sorry, Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote The Empire Strikes Back. Yeah,
So I think
lie.
Gary Whitta is writing a side story.
Yeah, he was writing Rogue One. I thought he was writing
Okay.
both of them. Sorry.
Got it.
Whoops, corrected.
Live correction. We don't even need to bother with that next
Live
week.
Star Wars
yeah.
correction.
This is fun. We should have chat live correct us every week. But yeah, so I mean, it's not all dismal from Nintendo, but we should move on. Let's look at Square Enix, which
One
had.
second.
Yes,
before
what's
you
up?
move on, I
Is
think
it
it's
really 1 second?
It's important to note, I think, that Iwata apologized
It's also.
for that
That
digital
press
event.
conference.
It's also
after.
important to note that Reggie in interviews afterward
Really?
assured everyone that Iwata did not apologize.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
He didn't say I'm sorry.
He didn't
Yeah.
apologize, but he
Yeah.
said, we'll try to do better next time, basically.
And then Reggie Fils-Aimé's reaction to this whole hubbub is just so different. I'm paraphrasing,
Sorry,
obviously. To Sorry Gates. He said, look, a lot of times we'll show games and people don't get it. We showed Splatoon last year, and a lot of people thought it looked bad. Now people are enjoying Splatoon. So this is just a problem we face every year. And what makes me so mad about that is like, Reggie, that's a problem you should fix. Just make better trailers, communicate better, and you won't have to deal with that first part of people not getting your games.
That's a
That-
very good point. Every
so
single
mad
one of the
about
games
that.
in that Nintendo conference could be amazingly fun.
Yeah.
But all those trailers made it seem like, oh boy.
Yeah, make better trailers. It's so simple to me. It's so weird.
That's still, though, what people were in love with Splatoon last year.
And that's a good point. We came away loving Splatoon.
I'm so disappointed they wasted the puppets on that direct.
You know what? But the puppets also like made it better than it.
yeah.
It was
They
the
did,
only good
but
thing in
Imagine
there.
that direct without those
They
puppets.
did, but if they had a ball in direct and it included those puppets, could you imagine? We'd say holy Nintendo's
you can
on
say
their
that word
game.
you're gonna say.
Holy shivers, Nintendo is on their
Thank you.
game.
Yeah. And what's so funny is the puppets were strutting at the beginning.
Yes.
They were
Pup strut.
so
the
confident.
puppets made a promise that the rest of the Nintendo Direct didn't keep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's talk about Square Enix, which happened immediately afterward. This is such a funny press conference. This press conference. So actually, I missed a correction earlier. We're watching the trailer. I can't watch. This is media blackout. Sorry, if you're just listening, we have our monitors running trailers nonstop. It's so fun to see everything that was shown at E3 nonstop throughout the day. I really, really love it. Anyway, Square Enix actually did have a press conference in 2006. I was wrong. This was not their first ever E3 press conference.
Wait, you thought it was?
Yeah, I absolutely thought it was their first.
okay.
So yeah, they had one in 2006. Anyway, this looked exactly like that. This was a podium in a small little auditorium, and it was very, help me with words here.
This is the summit.
Stockbrokers meeting?
Yes, thank you. Those words are perfect. Didn't seem like the press conferences we've been used to of the last 5 or 6 years. What did we think of that?
It was weird. It was very weird. Like I think Just Cause 3 set the tone for the whole thing, to where like if you muted that trailer, you saw a much better trailer.
I agree.
What does that mean? What did they say over
They
this
just-
trailer?
They were just. It was like somebody reading the bullet points off of a fact sheet who had never played a video game in their life. That's the only way I can describe it. It was like
You can jump off a helicopter and shoot machine guns as you parachute down to the ground.
Pretty close approximation
Gas
of it.
stations
To be honest.
explode over and over again.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
And what sucks is, so we had Just Cause 3 here on our live stage, and I got to see a gameplay demo of it. And within 10 seconds of watching the person soaring, I was like, wow, this game is different from all other games. The way you can grapple hook onto a mountain, then wingsuit, and then grapple and wingsuit, and just soar, and just fly in this game. And I thought, like, why was this not demonstrated?
But
Again,
it kind of was. It was just you were so bored by the audio that you couldn't process the awesome things happening in front of your face.
So did any game shine in this
I think that was Konami. I think we were so bored, we were unaware of like how many amazing things happened. And then like I look at the sheet of paper and it's like, ooh, this is really exciting.
We're talking about Square Enix here.
I was talking about Square. Yeah, no, I'm talking. Yeah, what did I say?
Konami.
Yeah, well, because it reminded me of the Konami press conference. That's why. Because
Very,
it's the same
very
kind of
similar,
thing, like,
yeah.
Screen on the right, podium. That, and I'm extremely tired. But you like look at the names that were there, and like these are huge games that they're showing off.
So what did you see there?
Just Cause 3, like you mentioned. Tomb Raider, we got a documentary trailer where we saw some of the graphics engine rendering on Lara Croft, which was disappointing in the grand scheme of things, but is also still interesting. The game does look really good.
The idea that they're bringing Nier back? I mean,
Yes.
that's a cult favorite, but I can't imagine that thing made any money.
We have no idea what the subtitle is.
And guess who's helping them develop that? Platinum.
Games.
How crazy is that?
We finally got
was a huge
gameplay of
announcement.
Kingdom Hearts.
Oh yeah.
We've already gotten like some little.
Well, we've had gameplay, but like
snippets,
this was like a huge jump.
Yeah, we have a
Because
HUD.
honestly, when they showed that first gameplay, like I was not impressed. I was
like a
most
test.
I was the
It
most
looked like a
cynical
test.
person in the room. I'm like, this just looks like the freaking Vita game.
Whoa.
But the stuff they showed this year, that looked really, really good.
So what did they show? What does it look like? What did we see of Kingdom Hearts 3? Because I do think this is
It just
absolutely
looks like
no question to
fantastical,
highlight.
like it's like very lush, detailed environments. You know, it looks, I mean, it looks
huge
Disney.
environments,
Yeah.
really vertical. There was a lot of like. It's always good to like set up expectations for how big a world is and then break them. So there's this moment where like Sora jumps over a cliff and you're like, oh, I thought that was gonna be the barrier. I thought you were gonna hit an invisible wall right there, but like, nope, it's PS4.
Brendan, I like what you just said. Set up expectations for the size of the world and then break them. I think that's a huge thing to do at E3. That is an important thing to do at E3. Probably a little unintentional here with the way that was revealed. But yeah, just that moment. You're right. When you see how vast this world is. And so actually before that, they had the director of Tangled come on and say, hey, we're heavily involved this time. Disney, we're trying to make these worlds look like that. And I remember when Tangled came out, they said that we're going for a real painting style, a very particular kind of painting, and then said that's the style we're going with. And so that translates to some worlds in Kingdom Hearts that just look mind-blowing. Just so colorful and just, the way they're lit. It's just, that game looks outstanding. That was the highlight of that, no question.
And more gameplay.
Yes.
We saw Hitman being played.
Kind of.
Or we saw gameplay from Hitman.
Right, we saw gameplay
from
trailer,
Deus Ex,
basically.
Mankind Divided.
Yeah.
And we saw trailers that we'd seen the night before.
Yes.
Yeah. But again, so that's
the Final
like
Fantasy VII one, I was totally down to watch again, no question.
But just the pace of it, because that was just like so slow, and I'm explaining things like everyone just picked the most boring way to do it. But then again, you look back on paper, and it's just like, whoa, it's Star Ocean, like finally got gameplay of that. They announced a whole new IP, Project Setsuna. Like, wow, I gotta go watch the Square Enix press conference and see that announcement.
Not just that, but a new studio,
right?
Yeah.
RPG focus.
Tokyo
studio.
RPG Factory.
Yeah.
But 3 screenshots and then you're done. It's like that. You should have been later.
I do
you should
like-
have saved that for TGS.
You're right. They saved it as one more thing, which got me way too hyped for what ended up being announced. But I do like that they're doubling down on RPG development.
Do you think if that one more thing, instead of being Project Setsuna or whatever, if it had been exactly the same, but it was called like Project Chrono, so it like really tipped it?
Oh,
that
yeah,
it was
we'd
a
all
new
be
Chrono
peeing our
game,
pants.
we'd all be going insane, right?
Yeah.
That was,
Yeah.
The people were going insane.
People
They
think it's a
really
Chrono
thought it was
game.
going to be Chrono.
Yeah.
Elise, what would you tell them to do next year? Let's say Square Enix is saying,
Square Enix.
hey, we're doing a press conference next year. I mean, there's some obvious advice to give them, but what do you tell them to do?
Don't do a press conference.
Ditch that podium.
Yeah, I guess if you're going on the same day as Nintendo, like do a digital event. It's tried and true, and you can be a little bit more succinct with your presentations. And I've said this before. I was really hoping that there would be a game that was just dropped at E3, and I think that if you're trying to make a big impression, a publisher that's a little bit new to the press conference circuit, like Square Enix, doing something like saying, "Hey, here's a game," or "Here's a," maybe not like a PT, but something akin to that you can actually check out right now. Would
it would
kind
have
of
been amazing.
Beyonce. What?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But I mean, I'm certain that no more than that trailer exists of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. But could you imagine if they had put out a demo of the remake?
Right,
everyone would have lost their minds.
Or put out a level of something. Put out a level of Kingdom Hearts.
Oh yeah,
you know? Like that could have blown everyone's minds, like for Square Enix. I've been gathering questions for you for Look Who Started This Conversation.
Okay, that's so nice of you, Elise. But before we get to Look Who Started This Conversation, that's like Look Who's Talking Now. We should talk about the AMD Presents PC Gaming Show.
Montage
Brought to you by PC Gamer.
Brought to you by Montage Do.
Heroes of the Storm expansion.
What is
the
that?
most bland.
An expansion to Heroes of the Storm with
wasn't
new
a press
characters.
Yeah,
conference.
that was cool. That was not a press conference. It was a late night talk show about graphics settings.
I was hoping we'd see more Project Blue Streak. Cliffy did come on stage. They showed a video that they've already released, but we didn't see anything new.
Yeah, announcements were slim. Phil Spencer came and announced that several Xbox One exclusives are coming to PC. Killer Instinct, Fable Legends already mentioned, and Gears of War Ultimate Edition all are will be playable on PC. That was a huge deal. As Elise always says, they're doubling down on Windows 10. So that was cool for him to show up there.
I hope people like Windows 10.
Blood's not on it.
Wow, what does that
I mean,
mean?
I just wait and see. You
Yeah,
know, whenever they have a
okay.
new Windows, it's like,
You're being
I'm fine with what I got.
Yeah.
So you better actually deliver on this.
That's smart to be cautious.
Yeah, it was definitely strange. It was, I mean, what's it, day 9, but what is it in real name? Something Plot?
Sean?
Sean Plot? Yeah, he came out and he just said, look at my stack of note cards, and he did. Like, you know, like Jimmy Fallon will have like 4 cards for his interviews on his show, and just poor day 9 had a 3-inch stack tall.
What was funny about that is we were making fun of the stack of cards right before he made fun of the stack of cards. So we were like, oh, okay, maybe this won't be boring.
That's the thing, is he was a delightful host, but
Yeah.
he was just put up to this impossible task of
Yeah.
like keeping a 3-hour show entertaining where it's just interviews.
a 3-hour, very poorly planned
And it was
show.
the longest press conference in the smallest venue.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Well, I think Square Enix probably had a smaller venue.
it was just kind of like it was like he was at like the Comedy Factory or something. It's like,
That-
hey everybody, what's up? Be
that
sure to
to
tip
me-
your waitress.
yeah.
It's like,
That
there's
to
that
me
kind of scale.
That felt like if you were like a PC developer and you were just going to like a conference, like a 3-day conference in Las Vegas that was just you and your fellow industry people, not the one that was being streamed or, you know, kind of like,
Yeah, it felt like
Yeah.
a Q&A. Yeah.
yeah, that's what it felt more like. Not something that like a fan would want to tune in and watch.
Next year, I would just say, obviously, just make it shorter. Say no to more people. Keep it more compact. It's really nice to include everyone, but we see what happens if you include everyone. And your ratings dipped. It was not, like, on Twitch at least, as huge as the other press conferences.
Yeah, it started at 180,000, and I think it just bled about 10 grand every 10 minutes.
What did it end up at?
I think it ended at like 140 or something. So it wasn't literally every 10 minutes. But
140 ain't bad.
maybe it was lower. I don't know. But
Okay.
the chat. Someone described the chat as a cancer, because every single comment was just Z's and like boring and like that sleeping guy.
And I bet like Half-Life 3 happened like every 10 seconds.
oh yeah,
Somebody
yeah.
in chat.
Well, and everyone was freaking out about that fake website too.
Yeah, and the chat was also
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to troll new people that arrived in the chat by like making up announcements, being like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they just announced like, I mean, Half-Life 3 right now because my brain's not working."
No, I
but
think that is extremely funny.
Team Fortress
yeah.
3.
Yeah, stuff like that.
I'm totally down with that. That is the right thing to do during a boring show. But anyway, that is all the press conferences. Gosh, what an E3. 8 press conferences. Do we hope there's 8 next year?
Yep.
Yeah, I certainly do. I hope there's 9 or
do?
10 next year.
Yeah.
I freaking love what Bethesda did. I love
I
that
love what
Bethesda
Bethesda did,
gave
yeah.
those games as much attention as possible. I think that's what Square Enix should do next year. Just blow out a game for a half hour or 20 minutes. I'm happy to do that.
I think if you don't have the games though, don't do the conference. Because Square shouldn't have done one this year.
They did. Square Enix does have the games. They do have a
Then
Doom
they should have blown
and,
out Kingdom Hearts 3 more. You know,
Yeah.
they should have done a
Right.
Fallout 4 to Kingdom Hearts
and
3.
Hitman. Like, just blow
Yeah.
that out.
Oh,
Just do
Well,
it.
I mean, it goes back to it. I mean, did Square do anything that couldn't have been done on a pre-record video? Like, they didn't really demo a game.
No, not one.
So that's
like,
that's
game
part of the
demo.
problem. You know, like they didn't get up there and play anything.
That's what I'm saying. If they had come out and they did like even just a 5-minute Kingdom Hearts like demo and they said, and the rest of this level is playable right now, you can go check it out. Like people would be like, oh no, my god, go play that right now.
Okay, let's move on. Sorry to do that. I was just reading questions.
Oh no, go for it.
No, that was like I felt like just That was a weird moment to say okay on. Whatever. It's so late.
Yeah.
Let's move on to, well, you're the one who started this conversation. E3 edition. This comment comes to us from, Button's the best. This was legitimately, I looked at the question first. I like this. Does the table think that fans being allowed at E3 again made for a better show? I think that there's a slight misunderstanding is that like fans weren't openly allowed into the show. But I guess my question would be, do you think allowing fans into the show would make it better?
Okay, so clarify what actually happened, because I'd heard about this, but I don't really know what they did this year.
The way I understand it is that exhibitors were given a certain amount of tickets to give away to fans. And so I think total maybe 3,000 fans were invited altogether.
The number that I heard was 4,000 to 5,000.
Okay, so around that range,
But
yeah.
in previous years, couldn't you buy like a premium pass that was like $500 or something ridiculous?
Expensive. Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to weed
And
out.
you still can.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this was like, there was 3,000 to 5,000 fans here. Do you think it made it a better show, and do you think more can make it an even better show? Should fans be allowed at E3?
I didn't notice a difference. To me, it just seemed like if you're a developer and you're getting this pass that you can give to somebody, you're probably going to give it to somebody that's into gaming. So like most of the people there just seemed like us, and we seem like fans when we're there anyway. So I said I think yes. I didn't notice that the lines were any longer. I don't know if you guys noticed this. It actually had a weird like sparse feeling to it.
Whoa.
Like,
what does he mean by that?
Ian
Well,
and
I
I
mean, it is Thursday. Did you go Thursday last
we went
year?
today.
Yeah.
But
I mean, last year, did you go Thursday as well?
no, last year it was maybe Wednesday.
Thursday's
Yeah,
definitely the
Wednesday.
sparse day.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's why it was like
Also,
that. But
who is allowed to go to E3? It's not just press.
So if you are if you sell video games, like even if you work at GameStop, you get to go.
Okay.
If you are,
But they have like a limited number of passes. Like not every single person at GameStop can go.
right, and the reason people from GameStop can go is that exhibitors want people who will sell their games. So they want Walmart there, they want
Yeah.
Target there, they want people who will sell their game and support it there. And so it's just industry.
Yeah,
which
and
is
they
why
still have those signs all over the outside. It's a trade-only event. No one under 17 allowed. And then,
Yeah.
right when it's my turn to play Ratchet and Clank, some 13-year-old kid comes up and jumps in front of me.
How'd you feel about that 13-year-old kid?
I'm like, I was trying to see if he was escorted by somebody. Like, who are you here with? How did you get here?
that's Reggie's son, blood. Just punt him. You got to punt him next time.
Because like the weird thing about E3 is like everyone that's there, like Elise said, like seems like a fan.
Yeah,
And very few have the little media like our badge says media on the bottom with this little red thing that's so funny because it's actually separate.
yeah.
But like not many of them actually say that.
Yeah, actually, I saw a weird thing today that I hadn't seen in years past, and they always do weird security things. But I would be walking up with like other people, and I don't know what their badges were, but like they would get ID'd,
yeah.
but they would see I had a media badge, and they just let me go through.
Yeah, last year I got ID'd. This year it was smooth sailing, baby. It was so weird. I don't understand what that was. But anyway, to this point, I do feel like E3 is strangely engineered toward fans because if you are on the floor, there's so many like photo opportunities things. There'd be like groups of people screaming to have something free thrown at them. And that's just like, what? Who? These aren't professionals. Who are these people?
That's always been E3. I mean, there was that weird lull when they went to Santa Monica, and then they kind of brought it back slowly over a couple of years.
Yeah.
But I mean, E3 was crazy before that.
Yeah.
There was, we would fill up bags with swag and then send them to the staff members that couldn't make it to E3. It was.
And so I'm torn on whether I'm cool with that part or not. Do you know what I mean? I'm cool with whether it makes sense for them to build a big dumb statue for XCOM 2 or not. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And so on one hand, it is exorbitant. It's a stupid waste of money. But on the other side, it's like a celebration of video games. It makes this thing actually feel more special than it did before.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have I didn't hear about crazy celebrities and stuff like Activision one time had a gigantic skate ramp with Tony Hawk skating on it.
I remember that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
People would have Mr. T and Paris Hilton and just come over here and see William Shatner. You saw then the Snoop Dogg that one year that I had to go do. It's just.
So you're saying this is actually even scaled back to where it once was?
There's some of that. They had Teddy dance floor whatever at the Atlas booth, but it's not as crazy as it was. And yet it seems like they're opening it up to more people that, more or less don't belong there,
I disagree with that though. I honestly think it won't hurt to add more fans and more fans.
I think if they're going to move that direction, number one, they probably need a bigger convention center. Number two, it needs to be modeled after Gamescom.
Well, was it you earlier who said earlier today, Kyle, or whatever your name is, that somebody was, or maybe Elise, you said this. Somebody was thinking of that they would extend it one day, and then Friday would be open
like
to the
fan
public.
day. Yeah.
That would be
smart.
good. That would be good too.
That's so
That'd
smart.
be cool. And like you charge whatever, like Comic-Con charges $100 or whatever it is for a ticket.
Yeah. I would be
And
yeah, that's what
sell a
Gamescom
certain
does as well,
number,
right?
Yeah.
Well, what Gamescom does is they have an early media day.
Yeah.
And then so the lovely part about Gamescom is that they have an
lovely.
entire, like, 2 halls that are just business. So you go in there, you have like, just very plain office space looking spots with coffee and water and all of that. And it's quiet and air conditioned. And you go in there and you see your demos and you talk to your people and it's nice and you can sit down and all of that. Whereas the halls is just this flood of people, just like BO wall to wall pushing through each other.
Yeah, that part terrifies me, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's what you don't want out of E3. You don't want to say, oh, I'd like to play Ratchet and Clank, but the line is 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that still kind of happens, but you don't want it to get worse. And like I think even the Halo 5 thing, they told me at 10:30 in the morning that they had to cut off the line because they weren't going to get through any more people that day.
Yeah, so maybe that's why we keep it from 4,000 to 5,000. So maybe just do what they did this year, maybe.
Yeah,
unless they're ready to go.
I
like
think
with
I think a public
Gamescom
day
way.
would be good.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds great.
Thank you for your question, suggestion. Button's the best, but now it is officially time for bets. Here's what happened last week. Here's the bet for this week. This is going to be fun. So, Elise, you actually have to do some work with this one. Actually, no, sorry. We have this week's bet to handle first. We'll do that first. Okay, so this week, we're betting on Batman Arkham Knight is coming out next week. That's a game that's coming out on Tuesday.
Don't I know it?
Oh, my gosh. I'm so excited. It's weird that, you come out of E3 and it's like, oh, it's time to play that game. Brandon reviewing that game. Here's the question. Is how many names will appear in the opening credits of this game? Elise, you are first to reveal as the super seat. What is that number?
30.
For listeners. 30 names. Daniel Bloodworth, how many names will appear in the opening credits of Batman Arkham Knight?
12.
Brendan Jones, how many names will we see in the opening credits?
16.
Okay, and my bet? 28. Oh my gosh, so embarrassing.
Really small.
28.
Very, very
Oh, because you know why it's small is because it wasn't confident.
Wasn't confident.
I'm not sure
You
about
can't see
28.
that.
This is
You
a
can't
really
see that on that camera.
And what's really nice is none of us, I think, watched the opening credits of the last game to even do the proper research this time, which is nice. Those are all blind dumb guesses, yeah.
Yeah.
At least yours is a blind dumb guess.
I just assume that like these things are over bloated, so more and more people feel entitled. To
oh
be
yeah, you have the
included.
high one, right?
Yeah.
You have 30. Okay, let me lock those in. By the way.
I guess I have the low one. Yeah, I've got it
Good
covered.
sound effect there, Kyle.
Yeah, we got to do live sound effects. Got to do live music. So let's talk about last week's bet. This I'm very excited about.
I'm getting some
Do you
support
need
here.
this?
People are rooting for
How's
me in
this
chat.
gonna
I
work?
appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to come up with a password. I'm going to write this down and make sure all of you agree with it. Don't make me do it. At least you got it. Or
Elise.
Blood. You ready? Are you willing to be a judge?
What?
Are you willing to be
I
the
have
judge? Yes.
Maybe at least if you judge the
What
computer.
are we judging?
Okay,
Wait,
so
what
here's
are-
how this works. We're giving a password to everyone watching this live.
Okay.
Okay? The first person to type out the password is going to be the person who determines the winner of this bet, because we're going to count the characters in that person's username. And we all bet on how many characters will be in that person's username. Brandon is feeling excited.
So a lot of people are rooting for me, which is a bad idea, you guys. This is bad. You're setting yourself up.
Okay, so I'm actually not going to reiterate what we bet last week, just so like it's not.
I will not be The Last Guardian. I will not be Shenmue 3.
All right, so
Dreams will not come true here.
But one of the things is we did say that we would all agree on the criteria for what the password would be. So I'm
Right.
going to show a password to you all. If you don't like it, we'll come up with a different one. But here's
Okay.
what I'm thinking.
Okay. Oh, okay. Interesting.
Pass that down. Just keep passing that down.
That's not a word, is it?
It's not.
I love it.
Okay, so we
Okay.
all agree with that. Okay, so everyone, I'm going to just let you know now, this word has 2 capital letters in it. We need to see it as one word, one congruous word with the 2 capital letters and the...
Don't we have to bet first on how many?
You're on that.
No, we already did. We
Yeah,
did
we
that
already
last
bet.
Oh, you
week.
guys did this last week?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
damn, I wanted to bet.
Thank you, Don. Okay, and the password is, get ready, chat, Baby House. Capital B, capital H. And now we just wait to see who the first person is.
Baby House.
Baby House.
Who's gonna be?
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. We're still waiting. Still waiting. Still waiting.
Oh, there they go.
I see a baby house.
there we
Okay,
go.
all
We
right.
gotta find it.
Now we gotta roll up.
We gotta go back.
Roll up, blood. Roll up.
Roll up, roll up.
We better do it quick.
Yeah, we're losing it. We're losing it. Oh my gosh.
Guys.
Race against
You
the
were-
chat.
Okay, stop saying baby house.
Like baby house.
How are we gonna find it?
Scroll.
Scroll.
So many.
Oh my god, you guys broke
Did we
it.
lose
I
it?
don't-
We broke
It
chat.
broke
We just
it.
broke chat. We have no idea who
maybe
won.
you need a new one, and this time we have to be on top of things.
Yeah, Blood, you were real slow on that one. I gotta be
No,
honest.
people didn't tell me I was doing it until
Yeah,
after
Blood-
it was
Blood
gone.
didn't know.
The laptop was right in front of you, Blood. You were closest to laptop. So we have to come up with a new password? You can't find who said for baby house first?
They're gone. It's gone.
Can anyone...
There's 2,000 people trying to pass that word.
Oh my gosh. All right. We gotta come up with a new word.
Temper's running high.
Oh no. Man, that sucks. No. Does anyone in
Sorry.
chat know? Can anyone in chat roll
You don't
scroll
ask
up?
chat.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
all right.
sorry.
Blood, you promise you're on top of this one?
Why am I on top of
I
this?
can
Okay, all right.
Do it. I can do it.
Elise, you're willing to accept this responsibility.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Oh my
Because the
gosh.
second you just move chat, it'll freeze right there. It'll
No, it
freeze
doesn't.
on that
It's-
first.
it's
We've been
weird.
trying to do that this whole week. I think it's maybe because it's on the Mac or maybe because it's Chrome, but it really does. You can't freeze it. We can't figure out how to freeze it.
Well, you can,
No, I think Brandon's right. I think
Like
You
I can
can-
freeze chat. Boom! I just froze chat right there.
Yeah,
Why didn't you find Baby House then?
because it's
Because
already
you
gone.
didn't tell me to
gone.
do it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're on top of it this time. Sorry, guys.
Okay, we got it this time. Okay, this is so fun. I love our dumb mistakes. Okay.
A ton of people in chat.
Uh-huh.
Like
Are saying it's Stoic?
about 500 people just said it was Stoic.
Okay, let's go with Stoic then.
Like literally, like it is Stoic.
So how do you spell this person's name?
STOIQ.
STOIQ. That's 5? Okay, let's go over last week's bets. I bet that the person would have 12 characters in their name. Brad in the Super Seat bet that the person would have 8 characters. Blood bet 10. Brandon Jones bet 7 characters. Brandon Jones just won a bet. This almost never happens. Brandon Jones, you got a point.
Victory lap.
You won a
Victory
bet.
lap.
You won a bet, Brandon. He's out of here. He's doing a victory lap.
boy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
That's huge. Everyone made this happen.
E3 of dreams,
Stoic.
people. E3 of
Stoic.
dreams.
Brandon knows you big time. Oh my gosh.
What are you doing, you maniacs?
This is Brandon's Shenmue.
That's so funny. Oh
And
man.
then I'll win another one next E3, and I'll have 4.
Brandon, I never heard of Stoic before. I feel like that's somebody who came in just to make you win that bet.
Is this Amanda?
No. that's Hermione.
Congratulations, Stoic.
I know.
You were the first
I
to
was
see the
pleased to
word
see
baby house and type it in. Oh my gosh.
It's the E3 of dreams.
That feels great. So, Brandon, before I hand it over to you, I'm going to go over the score. Super Seed has 8 points. Bloodworth has 9. I have 5 points. Brandon Jones now has 3 points. I do have to also thank a user, a friend, a viewer, a fan, Raise1, who gave us this cool E3 themed
Awesome.
logo for GT time. It is now E3 time, I guess, today.
cool.
So Brandon Jones, what you've won is not only that point, but also the right to promote any video on our website, and also to conclude this show with your own special sign-off.
It's not on our website, but it's coming.
What is it?
But this morning, the final day of E3, I got to E3 early. Was led into the show 30 minutes before the doors open with a special exhibitor badge that said Disney Interactive on
my
it.
goodness.
I went to the booth and sat down with Mr. John Blackburn and John Vignacchi for a solid 16 minutes of all of the things that I wanted to know about Disney Infinity 3.0. And that interview will likely be going up Monday, probably. Got a cup man, I've got a cup
maybe
Bosman.
Tuesday.
Maybe Tuesday.
But
we'll see.
sometime next week, when you get like all the rest of the trickle of our E3 coverage, you can find that stuff in there. And of course, all the the Huber's Shenmue reaction, all of our Twitch archives, all of the stuff that we've been cutting out of the show, the entirety of our E3 coverage. Definitely check that stuff out. But start with Disney.
Start
on
with Disney
Tuesday,
Infinity.
when you're done.
You've earned that right as the point
Sweet.
getter.
And these are our Twitter handles. You can follow Ian Hink at Ian Hink or Don Casanova at
The Nasakova.
The Nasakova. You can follow Elise Willems at Elise Willems. You can follow Daniel Bloodworth at DBloodworth2. You can follow me at GameTrailersVO. You can follow Kyle Bossman at Kyle Bossman. May the Force be with you.
And also with you.
You just bogarted his sign-off.
Oh, I forgot it was the
No, that was
sign-off.
good.
I
No,
forgot
that
it
was
the
good.
sign-off. No,
How dare you?
We'll cut it before then.
We certainly will, but the live people saw that happen.
That was in lore.